Welcome back to the She Does This podcast. I'm Geordie Lucas. I hope you've had an amazing week. I'm guessing if you're in Melbourne, you've got the same nervous energy that I do at the moment. Currently anticipating another lockdown. I really hope it doesn't happen, but the case numbers are growing. And I guess it just takes us all back to that place that we were in. How many times have we been here? A few. Just of trying to sort of shuffle everything around and get things done before we potentially are locked up again. I was served yesterday by a woman in Kmart, and when I asked her how her morning had been, she started crying. And I think that's just a testament to how much anxiety and PTSD there is amongst Melburnians. I know every other state has had it tough, but Melbourne did one of the longest, harshest lockdowns in the world last year. And I think it brings up a lot of anxiety and, nervousness when it might happen again. So I'm sending lots of love to those who need it. I hope not too many small businesses are affected. I am eagerly awaiting that time when I can roll up my sleeve to get the vaccination. I think the sooner we get vaccinated, the better. Yeah, it's just a shitty situation. But yeah, I'm sending lots of love to anyone who needs it. This week on the site, we share some ideas for amazing hens nights that don't involve strippers or penis straws, because that's not the vibe I am going for my hens night. And we review Zara's debut beauty collection. Now, this week's guest is an interior design powerhouse. She's worked with Zoe Foster Blake, Lana Wilkinson, Erin Holland on their homes, and she does not play by the rules when it comes to designing a space. Nicole Rosenberg is the founder of Liberty Interiors, and in today's episode, we talk about how she went from an occupational therapist to one of Melbourne's most in-demand home stylists, and how she feels about influencers asking for freebies. She also shares her tips for decorating novices like myself, and where the best places are to shop on a mid-range budget. Here's my chat with Nicole Rosenberg. Nicole, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast this week. Very excited to hear about your life and career. I often ask how the year started off for people, but we're almost halfway through the year now. How's 2021 been for you as a business owner?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to be on the podcast. Look, this year has been pretty much the same as last year in that everything to do with interiors and furniture really boomed because people were at home and they had excess dollars to spend. No one was going away. It's much like the sort of car industry where that's also boomed. So our industry has not had any sort of lag. I guess it's gone the other way. So last year I was super busy, and this year we're super busy as well. So it's all systems go, I think, with interiors, and people have got money to spend on new couches and new furniture and everything. So yeah, it's been really good.
So let's go back before Liberty Interiors. You were an occupational therapist?
Yes. So straight out of school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I just think a lot of kids at that age don't know what they want to do. It's a hard decision to make for the rest of your life. And my parents sort of forced me down the medical field. And I really didn't know what occupational therapy was, but I liked the sound of it. And so I studied for 4 years. And then I worked in the field and in the hospitals for probably about 5 years. And then I got married and I started having my kids and realized that it was just not my passion at all. And at home, when I had my first child, I started making little babushka dolls and painting them by hand. And I just knew I had to do something creative, and I started selling those dolls. And then I became obsessed with decorating my daughter's bedroom. And then a friend asked me to do the same to her kids' rooms. And that is literally how it all started and got the ball rolling. And then I started a blog, which I don't think blogs are around anymore, are they? Or
not many? Yeah, they are, yeah. I think a lot of people use Instagram as their blog or Facebook as their blog these days. Yeah.
But back then, that was everyone was doing a blog. So I started a blog, and then it just sort of snowballed from there. And that was probably, a good sort of 10, 12 years ago. And, we've gone through some transitions in the company. We've, expanded to doing whole homes and not just children's bedrooms. But I still really do love doing the kids' rooms and nurseries, because I know I can just get away with a little bit more colour and a bit more in their rooms. So every time we kind of get a job that's just like a nursery or a kids' room, we get really excited still.
You've got this really fun, sort of effortless style. Have you always had that, and have you always had sort of a bit of a flair even in your occupational therapy days?
I have to say, they always used to laugh at me in the company that I was in, because everyone came into the hospitals in very casual wear. And I used to come in these two-piece suits. Like, I looked like I was going to some corporate job, and they used to tease me. I always felt like, I was always like very coordinated. Everything I did was to the T. I can remember when I was 13 and I saw these pillows on a bed in David Jones, and I saved up and bought these pillows at 13, and they were really expensive pillows. I mean, who at 13 is buying pillows? And I remember that so distinctly. But I don't know, I must have always had that in me to do something in interiors or creative.
Yeah. So people talk about, that there's principles to styling and there's rules to styling. Did you ever have any of that sort of training per se, or do you just sort of go on your instinct?
No, I just think it is so instinctive, because you can learn what I do, but if it's not an instinct or it's not a passion, you're never going to be good at it. I think that a lot of it is sort of on the job training, and I've taught myself a lot, but it's sort of like those kids that are really successful that drop out of school and they go and do something amazing. It's the same kind of concept. If you've got it, running through your veins almost, then I don't know whether studying is always the way to go. I shouldn't probably say that. I hope no kids are listening. And my kids don't
go to uni.
But I kind of think that it's if it's a passion, then that is kind of like 80% of the way there almost.
Yeah. Who do you draw your inspiration from? Do you have style or interior icons yourself that you draw from?
Yeah, I do. I love Kelly Wearstler's style, but I think that's very sort of LA-ish. Like, it doesn't translate to sort of Australian style, but I still adore what she does. I also love, I don't know whether you've watched on Netflix, the Studio McGee Dream Home. No. It's also very American, but it's a couple that do interiors in America. So I really love her style. And again, it probably doesn't translate to Australia, but I still appreciate that style of interiors. They're probably my two that I love at the moment. And I'm not sure that I really get inspiration from them, or I just like what they do.
Yeah.
Doesn't inspire, because I just feel like I make things up in my head myself, sort of thing.
Yeah, right. It's interesting. Everyone has the different creative process, and some people draw a lot from
others.
Yeah. So you just have those ideas in your mind.
Well, I probably do in a subtle way, I'm sure, but I'm always the one thinking about things that people haven't done. But I do love, following Instagram pages of interiors stuff. I love looking at that stuff.
Yeah. I want to talk more about Instagram, but I just want to touch on how you said that when you had your children that you realized that occupational therapy wasn't your passion. And I think children change who we are.
Yes.
On a fundamental level.
Yeah.
So how else did they sort of shift your priorities and your perspective on life?
So I think that early on with my first child, I realized that I couldn't be a full-time stay-at-home mum. I've always worked, like even when I was 13, I sort of had three jobs, and always loved, it's not even about me earning money. It's about, feeling responsible and, doing good in a job and that kind of thing. So I knew that I had to do something else once I had my kids. Otherwise, I was going to go crazy. So I'm really, really thankful that I found this industry and was able to do that while my kids were young. I also had a lot of support with both sides of parents. I was sort of able to, a bit like you, able to palm them off to grandparents a little bit.
Yeah.
Able to start the business. And I just felt like once I'd come back, even if it was 2 or 3 hours of working, I felt rejuvenated and reset to then be a better mum almost.
Yeah. I get you. Yes.
And it's kind of like that saying, absence makes the heart grow.
Yeah.
Almost,
But you're right. It even sometimes just 2 or 3 hours is all you need just to reset.
2 or 3 hours without kids is more like 8 hours in our head.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah. Totally.
I also say that going on a holiday with children, there should be a different name for it.
Because it's not a holiday.
It's a holiday. Then someone needs to come up with a different term for holidaying with your children.
Yeah.
I love my children. I'm giving that such a bad rap.
But it is completely different.
Yeah, it's completely different. Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe we should come up with a term and coin that term.
Maybe we should trademark it. I'll get thinking.
Yeah.
So when did you realise, you're doing your children's rooms, you're doing some friends. When did you realise, hold on, this could actually be a business and I might not have to return to occupational therapy. I could do interior design.
Yeah. I think that when I had my kids, something shifted in me. Like you said, there's, having kids does give you a whole different sort of lease on life. And I always knew I wasn't going back to occupational therapy, but it was funny when I had to start sort of charging friends for what I was doing. And I think that was the shift where, my husband sort of said, you have to start charging for this now. It's, becoming, a business. So I think that was the shift when I had to start, charging people for what I was doing. I mean, I was so happy a lot of people ask me as well, like, how do you start off? How did you start off your business? And I think a lot of the time you have to do, which is sad, but you've got to do things for free and build up your portfolio and your photography for free. I think you've just got to part of the business.
Yeah. You've got to collaborate.
You have to collaborate. I know. Yeah. You really do.
Yeah. So how did you price yourself? Because I know that is something that I struggle with, putting a price to my worth and my work.
Yeah.
How did you sort of work out where you were going to place yourself in the market? How did you do that?
Oh, everything is made up in my head. It's not such I don't think about things so much. But I think at the start, I sort of priced myself where people wouldn't have to think about using me. And then now I'm really at a stage where we can really sort of pick and choose our projects. And also it's still a very small business, and it's not a business that I want to expand by having lots of staff, because I know managing people and personalities is not my passion.
Yep.
So I can't expand the business in that way. So I've only got a few people that, work for me. So I put I go by an hourly rate. And we've got a wait list sort of until August, September. So I always know that there will be work there. And we've had a wait list for maybe 3 or 4 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So now I know that I'm at a point where, my hourly rate is sort of where it should stay. And I think because of the folio that I've built up, people, and maybe because there's not that many other people doing it in Melbourne, or maybe there are, I'm not really sure about my competitors, but I think that people can sort of see the value in what I do. And maybe they're just sort of happy to hand it over, and they know it's like a full service and that I really have to think as much. I mean, I do have a lot of, I'm in a community that's got a lot of excess cash, probably.
Yeah. Disposable income.
Yeah. So that's a nice way of putting it. So I am I'm lucky to be in that kind of community, I guess.
So you have collaborated with the likes of Zoe Foster Blake and Lana Wilkinson. How does a collaboration with Zoe Foster Blake, let's focus on her because her Richmond home has been covered extensively.
Yeah.
What does a collaboration with her, how does that boost a business like yours, and what does that do for your business?
So I did Sunny's bedroom, and that was probably, I don't know how old Sunny is now. I mean, that was probably a good 5-6 years ago. And I don't think Zoe was as big back then.
Yeah.
But I think collaborating with those sort of influencers for me, and especially now, I don't know if it boosts your business as much as everyone sort of thinks it does.
Yeah, right.
And it's not like I seek the influencers out. I don't do that. They sort of come to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love doing it with them and working with those, influencers, super fun. But for me, it's more like just another client, really. And I just want to do sort of the best job I can. And I don't know. It's funny how that has all come about, because I didn't know it would, and I hadn't really seeked it out, if you know what I mean.
So how does a collaboration, if an influencer does come to you, do you offer your services for free?
No, I did at the start.
Yeah.
Now I don't.
Yeah. I don't think,
Which was another.
It's a funny one, isn't it?
It's a funny one. And I just feel like, if they're not going to pay for my hourly rate, then someone else will. And why are they?
You've got a wait list till September.
And why are they any different to anybody else?
Yeah.
So in terms of collaborating with them, what they do get from me is often I'll pass on trade discounts. They'll often get free product because it's both of our names involved. So I guess that is an advantage for them to come to me, perhaps. But I also really, I don't want to work. Who wants to work for free?
No one.
I don't want to work for free.
No.
And
it puts us, I know if I've had brands come to me and ask me to, do something for free or in exchange for a $20 pair of sunglasses or something, I'm like, no. Would you do? No. It's not going to pay the bills.
No. So I've kind of stepped away from that completely, and am now at a point, and I think it's after you hit 40, I don't know, this extra boost of confidence. I just literally send through my terms and conditions, and that's how it is. Obviously you give them a little bit of extra love and maybe, but they're not different to anybody else. So
I think that's why, though, sometimes the word influencer gets a bad rap, because people do think that a following equals entitlement.
Yeah, and I think that's okay. I think that's how that works in the product field.
Yeah, but not services.
That's how I feel. Because, when someone's launching a new product, they'll do a campaign and flick everyone free product. But when it's someone's time, being's time, I think it's totally different.
Yeah.
And we put so much effort into it, and it's just wrong to me.
You have a following of, is it over 90,000 on Instagram, Liberty Interiors? Is it 94?
I think.
How much?
No, I think it's 95. Yeah.
So you definitely would be classed as an influencer, but what I found really interesting was you don't post any sort of personal content. Nobody would really know much about your children, your husband. Not many people could have a following of that size without sharing personal life. Was that a conscious decision not to share anything personal and just to keep it strictly interiors?
Absolutely a conscious decision. But I think for me, the best part about that is that my interiors speak for themselves in that respect, because they're not really following me for me and my personality. They're following me for the interiors.
Yeah.
But I really, I think as well, because my kids are older, I can't do that to them.
Yeah.
I think when your kids are younger, you can, but I'm trying actually to give a little bit more of my personal life, like I'm doing my weekly favorite things, and that for me is almost a big thing. But I think I will start to, which I am getting more comfortable with, and sort of my PR company who manages me is pushing me in that direction. I think in my own way, I am going to start letting people in a little bit more to my personal life. That how I feel comfortable doing it, though.
Do you personally follow people that share a lot, or is that not something that interests you, even to see other people's lives?
I think as well, I've got a love-hate relationship with Instagram, but I put my phone down at night at 6 o'clock. I don't look at it anymore, because when I used to look at Instagram after a certain time, I would see something that would get a little bit of a funny feeling inside of me, and then that would linger on and I wouldn't be able to get sleep. So I know now for me that like Instagram is for my business. I post and I get off, and I barely look at what other people are doing.
Yeah.
And it's so much better for me, and I feel so much more empowered with it. Like I'm the boss of it, not it is the boss of me. So for me, that's how I sort of handle that whole thing. And I just know that I'm not going to get sucked into that Instagram world. So I can really detach from it. So I feel lucky in that respect that it doesn't affect me in any bad way. Like it sort of used to a little bit. I wasn't obsessed with it, but I feel like I can detach from it more now very easily. And I'm also totally obsessed with Netflix. So at night, I literally get into bed and I watch series after series, and it's just my happy place.
What have you been watching?
So at the moment, I've just started, it's called Monarca.
Oh, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, it's new, and it's about this sort of Mexican cartel family. It's fabulous. And I love watching things in subtitles. So it's Spanish, it's all in subtitles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Monarca. My fiance would love that one, I think. He likes a subtitle. Yeah.
Love a subtitle. So I would rather it makes so much better. I don't want to look at Instagram at night. I just want to go to bed feeling happy and thinking about drug lords.
Why wouldn't you? I don't blame you. Oh dear. So what have some of the career highlights been so far?
So it's funny that you asked that question, because you don't really reflect on, I don't even really know what my career highlights was. I guess I was really excited to be in Vogue Living recently with Erin Holland. They featured her apartment, and I think that's probably a career highlight that I was in Vogue Living.
Vogue, yeah.
Yeah, that was super fun. I think getting my office was a career highlight, getting out of the house and, having an office space. Also, probably the transition between whole homes, commercial spaces, and not just kids' rooms.
Yeah.
And then also changing my business name from Little Liberty, which was obviously sort of kids' rooms, to Liberty Interiors, which encompasses everything that we sort of do now and offer.
So I am a total novice when it comes to decorating. We moved into a beautiful home in May last year, and I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm sure a lot of women who are listening to this will that will resonate with them.
Yeah.
So when you go into a room or a house that is like a blank canvas,
Yeah.
what's the process like? Do you sort of come up with a color palette? Do you go with a theme? Like, where is a good place for us to start if you have no idea?
I think if you have no idea, I'm a big fan of color and I'm not afraid of using color. And to me, those accounts that are just very beige, that's not where I sit in that industry. So I'm always like to a client, I try to push them with color. So if we can start with a color palette, and if it even has to be a gray color, then, which I always kind of try not to do. But, you know, I just think like even for today, for example, I was at a client's in the morning and it was a white room. It had beautiful features, woodwork, high ceilings, picture rails, but it was white. And it wasn't featuring all the beautiful character in the room. And I said, this room has to be painted. So I think just starting with simple things, and especially if you're on a budget, color and paint is the best place to start. And the other thing is, if you hate it, you can just paint over it. Or if you get sick of it in 5 years, you can just paint over it. So I always like to start with whatever color we can get to that the client's comfortable with, and we kind of start from there.
Okay.
And whether that be wallpaper on walls or, you know, paint color, then that's where we start our mood boards and our renders and take inspiration from.
What are some of your favorite places to shop that are sort of that mid-range budget?
There's some great ones. At the moment, I'm loving West Elm and what they have to offer, especially in their lighting range. I think they're doing really well with and you know, that mid-century kind of looks in at the moment. They look quite high end, but the price tag isn't terrible. So I'm loving West Elm. I also love Globe West.
Yeah.
So they, you know, they offer sort of everything. Where else? Shop a lot at King Living for couches. I feel like they're a good price point. After sale service is great and the quality's good. Where else do I shop? I've got places near me that I shop for homewares, like Established for Design, Norsu Interiors, Crate Expectations, all those places for styling.
Yeah.
They're my main go-tos. And then online, places like Life Interiors, Treat House is another good one. You can find so much online, and Temple and Webster have a great selection as well.
Yeah, and they're quite quick with shipping as well, which I've noticed.
Quick. Yeah, very quick. They're amazing, actually.
Yeah. So if we do have a limited budget, what are some items that you would definitely say it's important to spend money on this, and then we can sort of budget on other items? What are the things that are important to spend money on?
Yeah, good question. I always say rugs you cannot go cheap on, because you walk over them all the time, and if they're cheap and you know, they'll ball and they'll just look terrible. So I always think rugs you need to spend a little bit more on and get a good quality rug. Definitely couches. You cannot go cheap on a couch, I don't think. As soon as you sit down on a cheap couch, you'll notice it.
Yeah.
Things like art you can get away with not expensive. There's so many great places online now that you can get great prints from, stick them in an IKEA frame, and they look fabulous. Lighting, I think, is another thing that you don't need to spend a lot of money on. But I think the things that like a couch and a rug is where I always tell people that you need to spend a little bit more money on. I think you can get away with dining chairs and dining tables not being so expensive.
Yeah.
I also think I'm a big believer in pillows being feather filled.
Okay.
Because the other ones lose their shape so quickly, and the feather filled ones, you can plump them up and you can chop them and they're always going to look nice and last so much longer, and they just feel so much nicer. Like a bit of weight in them, whereas those light ones, I have to say, like from Kmart and you know, those places where you get like a cushion in 2 weeks time, that's on the front lawn, you know, ready to sell. So places like Jardin for cushions, even though they're sort of like a $200 price point, it's a cushion that you'll probably have for 5 years.
Yeah.
It's going to look the same.
Yeah. Final question, and again, this is for us people that have just no idea and complete amateurs.
Yeah.
What would be your number one tip or principle, if you want to say principle, when it comes to decorating your home?
I would say take inspiration from Instagram, but don't copy what other people are doing. I think when you do something that's sort of unique to you, it comes across so much better and much more authentic. I know when a lot of people, like even some of the rooms that I've done, people have copied completely to the T.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think that you just need to put a personal touch into everything you do, and don't be swayed by what the trends are on Instagram, because then everything just looks the same.
Yeah.
Take a risk with things, and also mix the old with the new, like, going to sort of secondhand furniture stores and bringing in those items that are more handmade is always going to look more personal.
Yeah. That's a good tip.
Yeah.
Nicole, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast this week. I've learned a lot, and I'm going to go check out all of those little stores because we still need to decorate our home.
Thanks, Jordan. That was fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the She Does This podcast. If you have loved this episode, please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen, and I will be in your ears next week.